what we saw in response to the initial arrests by the Swiss and the FBI was a very Blatter-esque type of response. He was defiant. He wouldn't delay the election. And then following the election, in his acceptance speech, he was even more defiant. So to see the turnaround like this within days is quite amazing. Totally unexpected.
What do you think caused the turnaround, Mark? I mean, a person familiar with the matter has told us at Bloomberg that Blatter will be investigated by US prosecutors. The net seemed to be closing in on him, especially regarding the Secretary-General Jerome Valcke and that alleged payment made to authorities which would have ultimately gone to Jack Warner, who, of course, has been indicted. The net seemed to be closing on him, didn't it?
Well, I think for me, there were three agents for change. One was UEFA, and that was never going to be a short-term thing, if ever it was going to cause a change. Two were the sponsors, and I was fairly jaundiced as regards the sponsors being a real agent for change for commercial reasons. And three was and I said this, if the law enforcement agencies start to bring out evidence that was not available and took the whole thing closer to Blatter. So you make the supposition that that's, your phrase is the net was closing. You make the supposition that it was certainly feeling like that, and even if not directly linking it to Blatter, linking it directly to people very close to him, whereupon his stance, which was unreasonable, saying that I didn't know about these things, is evidence enough to sort of make sure, well, I've got to go. But so I think it feels to me like something may be coming down the line from law enforcement agencies.
Why don't the sponsors say more, Mark? Just to remind us, I mean, I was in Zurich at the end of last week. I spoke to WPP CEO Sir Martin Sorrell. He knows a thing or two about sponsors. Why haven't sponsors been more vocal? Was it not in their interest or not? Well,
I would never sort of clash swords on marketing with Martin Sorrell, but my view is that if you look at the last World Cup, what you saw was a fantastic World Cup. At the same time, the organisation FIFA, the organising body, was mired in corruption claims, and equally the people from FIFA, the officials, were being chauffeured from hotels where they basically hid from the Brazilian populace. The Brazilian are a football-loving population. That tells you something's wrong. It also tells you that FIFA's an irrelevance as regards the World Cup. And I think smart marketing guys are looking at just that. It's the brand of football that they're backing and aligning themselves with. It's not the brand of FIFA.
Mark, who's going to be the next president? Who would you like to be the next president?
I've been asked this many times, and my own view is that so many people will come out of the woodwork now that, well, I'll sit and wait to see who actually puts himself forward and puts the best case forward. And, of course, this was something that never happened in the past because you had virtually a procession, and indeed in the last election there were claims that, they never had a chance to really talk as to what their manifesto was. So I just look forward to that.
Mark, I chased after Greg Dyke and David Gill in Zurich as they were leaving to fly to the airport on Friday, and I joked with Greg Dyke, why don't you run? And he said, I'm too old. What about David Gill? What about an Englishman, Mark? Could we have an English FIFA president? Why not?
Well, David is a good candidate, without a doubt. I think the problem he will have is that he's English, and I say that on the basis that one of the strengths of Blatter was that he had a number of strengths, but one of his strengths was that he was seen as the person who had broken the stranglehold that the Europeans and the South Americans had. And then, of course, you've got he still will have a lot of support from people who voted for him. And of course, he was always very quick to paint the paradigm of the hectoring, lecturing English who never really quite got out the colonial years. And so I think that that would be a problem for any Englishman to stand in.